Broner goes to do Cam and Mace's show, and gets escorted off set because he was basically sexually harassing their co-host.
Treasure, right? Treasure Wilson.
Stab. Like, he was making her feel uncomfortable. He was asked to stop.
Have you ever witnessed a moment so raw, so uncomfortable, that it makes you stop whatever you're doing just to lean in closer? That's exactly what happened when Cameron, yes, Harlem's own, was forced to do something you rarely see on live media. He didn't just check a guest. He didn't just call out some bad behavior. He put his foot down in a way that most hosts in this game are too scared, too hesitant, or too unbothered to do. And that moment has people talking everywhere. This wasn't just another episode. This was one of those rare situations where the vibe in the room shifted instantly. A guest came in wild, crossed the line, and instead of brushing it off with fake laughs or moving the show along, Cameron stood firm. He said, "Not here, not today. You gotta go." And the way he handled it, it was smooth, direct, and surprisingly respectful considering how bad things could have gone. Now let's rewind and set the scene. Adrien Broner, a boxer with a long history of antics inside and outside the ring, shows up on set. At first, things feel casual. A little small talk, a few interruptions, nothing too wild. But then the energy shifts. Broner starts making comments, strange, awkward, and flat out inappropriate toward one of the women on set. You can hear it in the audio. He's cracking jokes, asking questions that don't fit the flow of conversation, dropping comments that feel off, and at first, the room tries to brush it off. Cam tries to laugh it away. The co-hosts try to keep it moving, but when the line kept being crossed, Cam stepped in. "Yo, bro, you gotta chill." That's basically the first warning, a simple check, like, "Hey, relax, keep it respectful, let's move on." But Broner didn't stop. He doubled down. Whether he was drunk, high, or just trying to be the center of attention, he ignored the cues. And this is the part that so many shows get wrong. Usually, people just let it slide. They look away, they move the topic forward, they sacrifice respect just to keep the show rolling. But Cam, he wasn't going for that. He made the decision, live, in the moment, that protecting the integrity of the show and protecting his co-host's comfort mattered more than whatever Broner was bringing. And in that moment, he showed a type of leadership we rarely see in entertainment media. Picture it. The cameras are rolling, the set is live, and the energy is tense. Broner is slouched in his seat, tossing out more weird comments. The other hosts are clearly uncomfortable, shifting, trying to redirect. Cam leans forward, steady voice, and tells him, "We're gonna have to ask you to leave." Not yelling, not exploding, just matter of fact, like a boss making a call. And the thing is, he didn't just throw Broner out cold. He offered respect even while shutting it down. "I'm gonna pay you for your time," Cam said. Think about that. Most people would have humiliated the guy, cut the cameras, and tossed him out. But Cam kept it professional. He made it clear, this isn't personal beef. You're just out of line, and we don't allow that here. And that's the part that had people applauding, not just that he shut it down, but that he shut it down the right way. He showed that you can protect your people, maintain boundaries, and still act with dignity. Because let's be real, Broner was wildin'. He wasn't hearing the hints. He wasn't reading the room. And without Cam stepping in, that moment could have spiraled into something far uglier. But here's where it gets deeper. This wasn't just about a guest being inappropriate. It was about what happens when men actually take a stand. Too often, women in these situations are left to deal with it on their own, forced to laugh uncomfortably or change the subject, while everyone else pretends not to notice. But Cam flipped the script. He used his platform to say, "We don't play that here." And that's why this moment matters. Because it wasn't just Cam defending his co-host from some awkward flirtation, it was Cam showing the entire audience, millions of people watching, that respect on set isn't optional, it's mandatory. Think about how rare that is. In most media, when a guest crosses the line, the hosts chuckle nervously. Maybe they drop a subtle hint, but very rarely do you see someone step in and shut it down completely. Cam did what a lot of people in his position wouldn't. And in doing so, he set a standard. So as we move forward in this breakdown, I want you to keep that picture in mind. Adrien Broner stumbling through awkward lines. The co-host, clearly uncomfortable. And Cameron, standing tall in the moment, saying with his presence and his words, "This show has boundaries, and I'm not letting you cross them." Because what happened next? That's where the real discussion begins. Now, let's break down exactly how it played out, because the details matter here. It wasn't just a one-off slip of the tongue from Broner. This was a slow build, moment after moment, where you could see the tension rising in the room. At first, it seemed almost harmless. A random comment here, a strange question there. Broner was clearly not in his sharpest form. His speech was a little slurred, his energy was off, and the way he kept derailing the flow of conversation made it obvious something wasn't right. The other hosts noticed it too. They tried to steer things back on track, switching topics, throwing in light jokes, hoping he'd follow along. But he didn't. Instead, he kept pressing. The most telling part was when he began focusing his attention on one of the women present. Instead of respecting her space, he leaned into awkward remarks that had no place in that setting. At first, they laughed nervously, trying to push through, like so many people do when they don't want to escalate, but you could feel it. Her body language, the tone, and her responses. She was uncomfortable. And the fact that Broner couldn't or wouldn't recognize that was the breaking point. Cam gave him chances. He really did. You can hear the restraint in Cam's voice as he tries to shift the mood. A couple of times, he basically says, "Yo, chill, we're moving on." He even tries to redirect the conversation to football, literally throwing out another subject just to see if Broner would get the hint. But Broner wouldn't let go. He doubled down, tossing out more left field remarks that made the whole set uneasy. And here's where you see leadership in action. Cam could have done what most hosts would. He could have brushed it aside, let it slide for the sake of content, and let the episode ride out in chaos. But he didn't. Instead, he decided to set a line in the sand. With the cameras rolling, he looked Broner in the eye and made it clear, this is over. Yo, we're gonna have to ask you to go. Simple. Firm. No theatrics. And when Broner tried to push back, insisting he wasn't really out of line, Cam held steady. He wasn't arguing. He wasn't debating. He just repeated it with calm authority. You gotta go. Now let's pause here, because this is the part that really stands out. In that moment, Cam wasn't just protecting the flow of the show. He was protecting the people on set. He was protecting the woman who had been on the receiving end of Broner's remarks. He was protecting the energy of the space. And most importantly, he was showing the audience what accountability looks like in real time. And here's the twist that made people respect him even more. He didn't just kick Broner out like some clown. He respected the man's time. "I'll pay you for your appearance," he said. Think about that. That's the difference between Cam and a lot of other hosts. He didn't humiliate the guy. He didn't make it about ego. He didn't clown him for clicks. He simply said, "Your behavior doesn't fit here, but I still value the fact that you came out." That's a rare kind of professionalism. But let's be honest. Most of us watching weren't surprised by Broner acting out. This isn't the first time he's had moments like this. His reputation outside the ring has always been chaotic. Some call it personality, others call it self-sabotage. Either way, it's not new. What was new, though, was the way Cam handled it. Because usually, the media plays along. They let the star behave however they want. They laugh it off. They shrug and say, that's just how he is. But not this time. This time, somebody said no. And that no wasn't just for Broner. It was for every guest moving forward. Cam was sending a message. If you come on this platform, you respect the hosts, you respect the women, and you respect the space, period. And the other hosts echoed it too. You can hear them chiming in after Broner left. They were relieved. They respected how Cam handled it. They pointed out that in 99% of shows, this doesn't happen. Most people just let the disrespect slide. But here, someone finally drew the line. And there's another layer to this worth highlighting. Some of the talk after the episode was about how the situation was framed. A couple of the guys said things like, "Yo, her man was there. You can't do that with her man in the room." And while the intention was to reinforce the boundary, it also brought up an interesting point. Shouldn't the line be drawn simply because she was uncomfortable, regardless of whether her boyfriend was around? The answer is yes. Respect shouldn't depend on whether a man is present. It should be automatic. But even with that wrinkle, the bigger picture still shines through. Cam wasn't going to allow his co-host, his colleague, his teammate to be disrespected on his platform. And when Broner wouldn't stop, Cam made the hard call. It wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty. But it was necessary. And that's why this moment resonated far beyond just one episode. Because it wasn't just about Adrien Broner being messy. It was about a cultural shift. One where the old just laugh it off mentality doesn't fly anymore. One where the standard of respect is higher. One where leaders step in not to cause drama, but to stop it. By the time Broner was escorted out, the tone of the entire room changed. The discomfort was lifted, the hosts could breathe again, and the audience watching at home, they saw something rare: accountability in real time. But the story doesn't end there, because what Cam did set off a conversation about professionalism, about boundaries, and about the way we defend one another when the cameras are on. And in Section 3, we'll dig into exactly why this moment is bigger than just one guest being shown the door. So, here's where the story widens. On the surface, this was a viral moment. Cameron calmly escorting Adrien Broner out of his show after a string of disrespectful comments. But if you stop there, you miss the bigger meaning. Because this wasn't just about one guest going too far, it was about what it looks like when someone in power finally steps up, draws a line, and refuses to compromise on respect. Think about how rare that is. In most cases, the cameras keep rolling. The inappropriate behavior gets brushed aside, and the audience is left with this uncomfortable feeling that no one really cared enough to say something. It happens on TV, in podcasts, in interviews, in workplaces, you name it. People freeze, they look away, they act like it's not their job to intervene, and that silence becomes part of the problem. But Cam flipped that script. He showed that being a host isn't just about asking questions and running the show. It's about protecting the culture you create. His set, his rules, his responsibility. And in that moment, he took it seriously. He made sure that the women on his platform knew that they weren't alone. They weren't going to be left to deal with that energy by themselves. Now let's be clear, Broner wasn't some random dude off the street. He's a former world champion, a celebrity in his own right, with a fan base that knows his name. It takes guts to tell someone with that kind of profile to pack it up and leave. A lot of hosts would have let him ride.
Simply because of who he is. But Cam didn't care about that. He cared about respect. And that's the difference. And let's not overlook how he did it. Calmly, professionally, even generously. By offering to pay Broner for his time, Cam set a tone. This wasn't about trying to embarrass him. It wasn't about clout chasing. It wasn't about creating a scandal. It was about know the standard. They know this isn't the place where you can come in sloppy, reckless, or disrespectful and expect people to just laugh along. And that's why this clip isn't just a viral meme. It's a cultural marker. It's a reminder that leadership means protecting your team, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the cameras are rolling, even when the person you're checking is a star. So what do we take away from all this? Simple. Respect has to be non-negotiable. Whether you're Cam hosting a podcast or just somebody in a room where lines are being crossed, the principle is the same. Protect your people. Set the tone. Be the one who says no when no one else will. Because at the end of the day, that's what people remember. Not the awkward comments, not the uncomfortable laughter. What they remember is the moment someone finally stood up and said, "Enough. Not here. Not on my watch." And that's exactly why this moment, Cam escorting Broner off set, will be remembered. Not because it was messy, but because it was necessary.